On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610, a brand new Boeing 737 MAX, plunged into the Java Sea shortly after takeoff from Jakarta. All 189 people aboard perished. Eyewitness accounts and initial reports from the Indonesian National Transportation Safety Committee, or KNKT, indicated erratic flight behavior before impact. It was a tragedy that shocked the world, raising immediate questions about the safety of this new generation aircraft. The airline, Lion Air, had just taken delivery of the aircraft a few months prior, making its sudden failure particularly perplexing and alarming for the global aviation community. Just over 4 months later, on March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, also a Boeing 737 MAX, crashed 6 minutes after takeoff from Addis Ababa, killing all 157 people on board. The eerie similarities between the two accidents were undeniable and terrifying. Regulators worldwide began to act. China was the first to ground the 737 MAX fleet, quickly followed by the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, the UK, Australia, and many other nations. The pressure mounted on the US Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, to follow suit, leading to an unprecedented global grounding of an entire aircraft model. The Boeing 737 MAX was touted as the future of single-aisle commercial aviation. It was an updated version of the hugely successful 737, the best-selling commercial jet in history. Boeing designed the MAX with more fuel-efficient engines, aiming to compete directly with Airbus's A320neo, which had garnered significant market share. The new engines, larger and more powerful, necessitated a repositioning on the wing, which changed the aircraft's aerodynamic characteristics. This design evolution was central to Boeing's strategy to maintain its dominance in the competitive narrow-body market, a sector critical to airline profitability. Boeing, an American icon, has a long history of engineering excellence and innovation, producing some of the most reliable aircraft ever flown. But by the time the 737 MAX was conceived, the company was facing intense market pressure from its European rival, Airbus. According to industry analysts, Boeing's decision to update the 737 rather than design an entirely new aircraft was largely driven by the desire for a faster, less costly development cycle to catch up to Airbus's lead in fuel-efficient narrow-body jets. This economic imperative, sources suggest, may have inadvertently influenced critical design and development decisions. The original 737 design dates back to the 1960s, a testament to its enduring success. However, retrofitting modern, larger engines onto an older airframe presented engineering challenges. The new LEAP 1B engines, essential for fuel efficiency, were placed higher and further forward on the wing compared to previous 737 variants. This altered the aircraft's pitch characteristics, particularly at high angles of attack. Boeing engineers sought a solution that would allow the MAX to feel and fly like previous 737 generations, minimizing the need for extensive pilot retraining, a significant selling point for airlines. This desire for commonality would prove to be a crucial factor. To address the altered flight characteristics, Boeing introduced the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, or MCAS. This software system was designed to automatically push the aircraft's nose down under certain conditions, specifically when the aircraft was at a high angle of attack and approaching a stall. According to Boeing's own documentation, its purpose was to make the 737 MAX handle similarly to previous 737 models, ensuring pilots familiar with the earlier versions would require minimal additional training. This commonality was a key marketing advantage for the MAX, promising airlines significant cost savings by reducing the need for costly simulator training. Following the Lion Air crash, investigators from the KNKT and Boeing began to examine the flight data recorder, FDR, and cockpit voice recorder, CVR. The preliminary report, released in November 2018, indicated that the aircraft's nose repeatedly pitched down despite the pilot's efforts to pull it up. Data showed a faulty angle of attack, AOA, sensor providing incorrect readings, triggering MCAS. According to the KNKT, the pilots fought against the automated system for several minutes before the fatal dive. This was the first concrete evidence pointing to a system malfunction, not just pilot error, as a potential factor in the crash. A critical design flaw in MCAS quickly came into focus. The system was designed to rely on input from only *1* of the two angle of attack sensors on the aircraft. If that single sensor failed and provided erroneous data, MCAS would activate based on faulty information. Furthermore, investigators found that MCAS was designed to repeatedly command the nose down, even if pilots were actively trying to counteract it. This crucial single point of failure and its aggressive behavior became a central concern for accident investigators and aviation safety experts around the world, fundamentally questioning Boeing's safety protocols. Perhaps even more alarming was the discovery that many pilots flying the 737 MAX were unaware of MCAS's existence or its operational characteristics. Boeing, in its efforts to emphasize commonality with previous 737 models, reportedly minimized documentation and training requirements for the new system. According to congressional testimony and multiple pilot union statements, MCAS was not explicitly mentioned in the flight crew operating manuals, nor was it covered in the type rating differences training required for pilots transitioning to the MAX. This lack of awareness left pilots unprepared to handle an unexpected MCAS activation, turning a software enhancement into a critical safety hazard. The Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crash tragically mirrored the Lion Air disaster. Black box data, analyzed by the Ethiopian Accident Investigation Bureau, EAIB, and confirmed by the NTSB, revealed that the aircraft's AOA sensors again provided erroneous data immediately after takeoff. This faulty input triggered MCAS, which then repeatedly pushed the nose of the plane down. Despite the pilots' desperate attempts to counteract the system, they lost control. The EAIB's preliminary report highlighted the striking parallels, leading investigators to conclude that both accidents shared a common cause related to the aircraft's flight control system. The evidence was now overwhelming. The role of the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, in certifying the 737 MAX came under intense scrutiny. Critics, including congressional committees and internal whistleblowers, alleged that the FAA had delegated too much responsibility to Boeing itself for the certification process. This practice, known as Organization Designation Authorization (ODA), was intended to streamline approvals but, according to some reports, allowed Boeing to rush aspects of the MAX's certification. A March 2019 report from the Department of Transportation's Inspector General found that the FAA had insufficient oversight of Boeing's delegated authority for the MAX. The certification process for new aircraft is rigorous, involving extensive testing and documentation. However, in the case of the 737 MAX, the FAA allowed Boeing to classify MCAS as a modification to an existing system, rather than a completely new one, thereby reducing the level of scrutiny it received. According to a 2020 report by the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure, FAA management pushed engineers to defer to Boeing's assessments and expedite the MAX's certification. This approach meant that some safety assessments for MCAS were not reviewed with the depth typically afforded to new critical flight control systems, a critical oversight highlighted by the subsequent crashes. Evidence later emerged that some Boeing engineers had raised concerns about MCAS during its development. A 2018 email from a Boeing technical pilot to an FAA official, revealed in congressional investigations, discussed concerns about erroneous AOA data, though the direct link to MCAS's hazardous behavior was not fully explored at the time. Further, internal Boeing documents showed that the company was aware of a potential safety risk where pilots could take up to 10 seconds to respond to uncommanded pitch-down events, which was deemed acceptable. These insights, brought to light by investigations, suggested a pattern of downplaying potential hazards. The drive for speed and cost efficiency in the 737 MAX program was undeniable. Boeing wanted to bring the MAX to market quickly to protect its competitive position against Airbus. This involved retaining commonality with previous 737 models to avoid expensive full-motion simulator training for pilots. Each simulator session can cost an airline hundreds of thousands of dollars per pilot, so avoiding this was a major selling point. Industry observers and congressional reports suggest that this economic pressure may have overshadowed a thorough safety assessment, leading to decisions that ultimately compromise safety in favor of market advantage. Following the global grounding, Boeing initiated a comprehensive software update for the MCAS system. This update ensured that MCAS would now compare data from both angle of attack sensors and would only activate if both sensors agreed. It also limited MCAS activation to a single instance and prevented it from commanding the nose down excessively. Furthermore, Boeing developed new pilot training materials that clearly explained MCAS. The company worked closely with regulators worldwide to demonstrate the safety of these changes, hoping to restore confidence in the 737 MAX. However, the path to recertification would be long and arduous. Beyond the technical and regulatory failings, the crashes had a devastating human cost. Families of the 346 victims from both flights endured immense grief and sought accountability. Their relentless advocacy played a crucial role in bringing the issues with the 737 MAX to light, pushing for more transparent investigations and stricter safety standards. For many, the tragedies were not just about a faulty system but about a perceived failure of corporate responsibility and regulatory oversight. The victim families' testimonies at congressional hearings underscored the profound impact of these accidents on countless lives, adding a powerful moral dimension to the technical inquiry. The process of recertifying the 737 MAX was unprecedented in its scope and duration. The FAA, under intense public and political pressure, conducted an independent review, requiring Boeing to demonstrate the safety of its updated systems. Other global aviation authorities, including EASA and Transport Canada, conducted their own parallel assessments, refusing to simply accept the FAA's findings without independent verification. This rigorous international scrutiny led to further modifications and additional training requirements, indicating a shift towards a more collaborative, but also more demanding, global certification process following the incidents. The FAA eventually ungrounded the MAX in November 2020. The investigations into the 737 MAX crashes revealed a confluence of factors. At the technical level, the MCAS system, relying on a single angle of attack sensor, was fundamentally flawed. Operationally, pilots were largely unaware of MCAS and unprepared to counteract its commands. From a corporate perspective, Boeing's intense focus on competition and commonality, as detailed in various government reports, arguably led to design compromises and a downplaying of safety risks. Finally, regulatory oversight by the FAA, particularly its reliance on delegated authority, was found to be insufficient, allowing critical safety aspects to be overlooked. These elements combined to create a catastrophic failure. For Boeing, the 737 MAX crisis represented a profound blow to its reputation and financial stability. The company faced billions in losses, cancelled orders, and ongoing legal challenges. More importantly, it faced a crisis of trust with airlines, pilots, and the flying public. Post-crisis, Boeing has pledged a renewed commitment to safety and transparency, undergoing significant leadership changes and restructuring its engineering and safety divisions. However, the path to fully restoring its standing in the aerospace industry remains challenging, requiring sustained cultural shifts and a re-emphasis on its foundational engineering values over purely commercial considerations. The 737 MAX crashes had far-reaching implications for the entire aviation industry. It led to a global reassessment of aircraft certification processes, with many international regulators asserting greater independence from the FAA. It also prompted airlines to scrutinize new aircraft designs more closely and demand more comprehensive pilot training. The crisis fostered a greater emphasis on human factors in aviation safety, acknowledging the critical interface between automated systems and pilot interaction. Ultimately, the incident served as a stark reminder that advanced technology, if not thoroughly vetted and understood by its operators, can introduce new and unforeseen risks. The original MCAS system, as implemented in the crashed 737 MAX aircraft, relied on a single angle of attack sensor input and could command repeated nose-down movements without pilot intervention. Pilots were not adequately informed about its operation. Post-crash, Boeing implemented significant changes. The revised MCAS now receives inputs from both AOA sensors, activating only if both agree. It can only activate once per event and cannot command a continuous nose-down dive. Additionally, pilots receive mandatory training on MCAS functionality and how to disable it if necessary. These changes aim to eliminate the single point of failure and provide pilots with full control. The FAA acknowledged its shortcomings in the 737 MAX certification. Administrator Steve Dixon, in congressional testimony, committed to reviewing and revising the agency's Organization Designation Authorization Program. He also emphasized the FAA's dedication to regaining public trust through increased transparency and a more proactive, hands-on approach to aircraft certification. The agency has since implemented new policies, including closer scrutiny of delegated functions and expanded training for its own engineers and inspectors. The goal is to ensure that critical safety systems like MCAS receive the highest level of independent review, preventing future tragic oversights. Beyond technical fixes, many critics and internal observers argued that Boeing required a fundamental cultural shift. For decades, Boeing was known for its engineering-first approach. However, some suggested that a shift towards a focus on shareholder value and competitive deadlines may have eroded this core principle. In response, Boeing has stated its intention to re-emphasize engineering leadership and safety as paramount values. This involves empowering engineers, improving internal communication channels for safety concerns, and ensuring that commercial pressures do not compromise the integrity of aircraft design and certification. It's a long-term endeavor to rebuild an ethos. The financial toll on Boeing from the 737 MAX grounding was staggering. According to Boeing's financial reports, the company incurred over $20 billion in costs due to compensation to airlines, production slowdowns, and legal fees. This figure does not fully capture the indirect costs, such as reputational damage and lost market share. This massive financial penalty underscores the profound economic risk associated with perceived cost-saving measures during aircraft development that ultimately compromise safety. It serves as a stark reminder that, in the aviation industry, a short-term focus on economics can lead to long-term devastation, both human and financial. Restoring public trust in the 737 MAX, and in Boeing as a whole, has been a paramount challenge. Airlines that fly the MAX have actively communicated the safety updates to passengers, highlighting the extensive recertification process. Pilots' unions, after reviewing the changes and additional training, have largely expressed confidence in the aircraft's safety. However, surveys initially showed significant passenger reluctance to fly on the MAX. Over time, as the aircraft has safely returned to service globally, public confidence has slowly begun to recover. Yet, the memory of the crashes serves as a lasting caution within the industry and among travelers. The lessons learned from the 737 MAX tragedies are multifaceted and continue to shape the future of aviation safety. They emphasize the critical importance of robust independent oversight in aircraft certification, rather than heavy reliance on manufacturer self-certification. The incidents highlight the need for comprehensive pilot training on all automated systems, especially those that can significantly alter flight characteristics. Furthermore, they underscore the ethical imperative for aerospace manufacturers to prioritize safety above all other considerations, including speed to market and cost efficiency. The crashes serve as a permanent case study in how complex interactions between technology, human factors, and corporate culture can lead to disaster. Before the 737 MAX crisis, the FAA was largely seen as the gold standard for aviation certification, with other global authorities often following its lead. Its Organization Designation Authorization (ODA) program allowed Boeing significant self-certification. In contrast, after the crashes, international regulators like EASA and Transport Canada conducted their own independent and highly rigorous reviews, often imposing additional requirements beyond the FAA's. This represents a significant shift. The FAA has since committed to greater direct oversight, but the era of unquestioning acceptance of U.S. certification by global partners appears to be over, leading to a more distributed and potentially more robust safety review process worldwide. A critical aspect highlighted by the accidents was the gap in pilot training regarding MCAS. Prior to the crashes, pilots transitioning to the 737 MAX typically received iPad-based training, focusing on differences from older 737 models. This training did not include full-motion simulator sessions specifically addressing MCAS anomalies. Following the crashes, mandatory full-motion simulator training was introduced for all 737 MAX pilots globally. This training now includes scenarios where MCAS malfunctions, ensuring pilots develop the muscle memory and procedures to effectively respond to such emergencies, a change fiercely advocated by pilot unions and victim families alike. The 737 MAX saga also brought to light a growing trend in modern aircraft design, the increasing reliance on software to compensate for hardware limitations. While software offers flexibility and efficiency, the MCAS failures demonstrated the profound risks when such systems are not thoroughly vetted and understood. Critics argue that instead of fundamentally redesigning the 737 to accommodate new engines, Boeing used software to trick the plane into flying like its predecessors. This approach raises broader questions about the balance between software enhancements and robust fundamental aerodynamic design, a debate that continues to resonate across the aerospace engineering community. The crisis had significant consequences for Boeing's leadership. CEO Dennis Muhlenberg was eventually fired in late 2019, following intense criticism over his handling of the crisis and perceived lack of transparency. His successor, David Calhoun, immediately pledged a renewed focus on safety and integrity. This leadership change signaled a recognition at the highest levels of Boeing that the issues extended beyond mere technical problems, encompassing corporate culture and governance. The pressure from investors, regulators, and the public made it clear that accountability for such a profound failure of safety ultimately rests with the company's executive team. The 737 MAX crashes serve as a sobering reminder of the complexities of aviation safety in the digital age. As aircraft become more automated and interconnected, the interaction between software, hardware, and human operators grows increasingly intricate. The incidents highlighted the potential for software glitches or design flaws to have catastrophic consequences, even when intended to improve safety. It emphasizes the need for redundant systems, fail-safes, and a deep understanding of how pilots will interact with these advanced technologies under stress. The industry must evolve its safety paradigms to keep pace with technological advancements, ensuring that innovation never outpaces rigorous safety validation. Throughout the investigations, the crucial role of whistleblowers, both within Boeing and the FAA, became apparent. Their courageous testimonies and leaked documents provided invaluable insights into the internal pressures and decision-making processes that contributed to the MAX's flawed certification. These individuals often faced personal and professional risks to bring their concerns to light, demonstrating the vital importance of protecting those who speak up about safety issues. Congressional investigations widely utilized whistleblower accounts to uncover systemic problems and push for reforms, highlighting that internal integrity and transparency are as critical to safety as any technical specification. The long-term market impact of the 737 MAX crisis on Boeing's dominance in the narrow-body aircraft sector remains a subject of ongoing analysis. Airbus seized the opportunity, increasing its market share and expanding its A320neo family. While Boeing still commands significant orders for the MAX, the crisis allowed Airbus to solidify its position, and some airlines reconsidered their exclusive reliance on Boeing. The incident underscored the fragility of market leadership and the potential for a major safety event to fundamentally alter the competitive landscape in a highly concentrated industry. Boeing's future success will depend on its ability to rebuild trust and innovate responsibly. The international response to the 737 MAX crashes highlighted the interconnectedness of global aviation safety. While the FAA traditionally led certification, the independent actions of regulators in China, Europe, and Canada demonstrated a new era of global vigilance. This coordinated, albeit initially divergent, response ultimately strengthened the recertification process. It underscored that aviation safety is a shared global responsibility, demanding collaboration and independent scrutiny across borders. This shift ensures that no single regulatory body's judgment goes unchallenged, creating a more robust and resilient system for future aircraft designs and certifications worldwide. Let's summarize the key contributing factors to the two 737 MAX crashes. First, a flawed design of the MCAS system, relying on a single AOA sensor. Second, inadequate communication and training for pilots regarding MCAS. Third, immense corporate pressure at Boeing to rapidly compete with Airbus, influencing design and certification decisions. Fourth, insufficient oversight by the FAA, including excessive delegation of authority to the manufacturer. These elements, meticulously uncovered through independent investigations, paint a clear picture of how a sophisticated piece of machinery, intended for human safety, could become tragically vulnerable. The real reason was a complex interplay of design, human factors, corporate strategy, and regulatory failings. The aviation industry operates on trust in engineering, trust in pilots, trust in regulators. The 737 MAX crashes severely tested this foundational principle. The rebuilding of that trust is an ongoing process, requiring unwavering commitment to safety from all stakeholders. For Boeing, it means proving that profit will never again overshadow passenger well-being. For regulators, it means demonstrating independent, rigorous oversight. For airlines and pilots, it means advocating for the highest standards of training and aircraft integrity. Ultimately, the future of safe air travel depends on integrating the harsh lessons of these tragedies into every aspect of design, manufacturing, and operation. The two tragic crashes of the Boeing 737 MAX were not the result of a single failure, but a chain of events spanning design, regulation, and corporate decision-making. As the aircraft returns to the skies with significant modifications and enhanced pilot training, the shadow of those devastating days lingers. The story of the 737 MAX is a stark, invaluable lesson for the aerospace industry and a reminder to the world that vigilance, transparency, and an uncompromising commitment to safety must always guide the future of flight. Our hope is that by understanding the real reasons, we can prevent such tragedies from ever happening again.